Hey, so yes, here I am. Sorry, I'm not there, but well, I guess I'm there now. So I'm here to share with you experiences on project work, research work, following or adopting decolonial thinking, the decolonial approach. This is a long conversation, I think. It's a long discussion, but I will try and keep it really short and concise. We spent basically, until the last 2 weeks discussing this approach because we decided to do this approach. Okay, this is one of the projects. I would say the one we used, we embodied, we adopted, we were devoted to this approach. This was third semester project, so I was taking this course as well, and it was very useful to go through this project process and the discussions, and at the same time, hearing all these things and learning about Theory for Humanities. It was really important for us in the beginning. We took the decision of going after this approach. We all were a bit in the group. We all knew a little bit about that, but it also sounds great, right? It's decolonial. If we just look a little bit, if you read between the lines, we quickly understand that there is a dominant flow, and this dominant flow has its center epicenter in what we learn in school, right? Basically. So we wanted to do something good. We wanted to do a study under these guidelines. We don't want to contribute to the ongoing coloniality. So we went for it, and we had this case. There were some guys, rappers from Nairobi, who became friends with some of the members of the group, and they are singing in this language, which is considered slang, but is actually a language that is being standardized to the point that cultural production and social production is being carried on this is being performed in this language. It's called Sheng. Sheng is a sort of a mixture of many languages, none of them English, which is the language for the academics, for the most of it. Right, Gift, where are you? Gift, you might be there. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So these rappers, they do trap music, and they do it in Sheng. So they are shrappers, yo. And these guys would hang out with part of the group, and that would be slowly, without knowing and without forcing it, becoming, foundational knowledge for us, background knowledge for us to approach this case. So this was the project, right? Writing about that. So the colonial perspective. What now? How do we do that? What does it mean? So we got quickly to this recipe of the colonial thinking. The colonial approach is all about, or is mostly about, how knowledge is being dominated by one tradition, right? So then we're like, okay, so how do we open up to other voices? How do we open up to other perspectives and other realities? Well, there was this quick answer of, we only use African authors. We found African authors who are rather famous in this decolonial approach, and we went through their writings to understand what is decoloniality for them. So we started contextualizing these theories. I think it's a key process to contextualize and keep on being self-reflective on how do you affect the field, and how does the field affect you, and what is the power balance in that. But always keeping in the back of your head, how are you reproducing global flows, global dominance, right? That was the approach. That's how we were taking all decisions, and how we were discussing all discussions. And this was a heavy thing. It was a really, really heavy process, because we were always, it was very, very difficult and very slow to move on to the next step in the project. It wasn't really mechanical, it was discussional. It was very elastic, like chewing gum kind of process, back and forth. And that was part of the being true to the approach, to not be productive, but some sort of seeking some sort of legitimacy, which is also, and I'm gonna go there in a minute, is part of the reflection that we ended up having. So these scholars, who are the African decolonials, are a critique to the African nationalists scholars, and the African nationalist scholars are a critique to the first generation scholars who studied in London, most of them. This is what they write. This is how we understood their positionality through their writings. Then we needed to understand our positionality. And at this moment, part of the group was just hanging out with rappers. Nothing was happening there in Kenya. Sounds cool. Very, very cheap parties. And then, yes. Then we kept on going, circling around the methodology. We understood at the moment. Then we got to the point where we had to produce a report, and this is problematic, because this report is following traditions that are coming from the dominant knowledge of the dominant traditions. There are conventions like, okay, you need analysis. Now you have to produce your analysis. This is what makes you the researcher. That's what makes this paper a report. That there is an analysis, that there are authors that are not just authors. You cannot just use a song that you translated from Sheng and use it as your concept, analytical concept. You can't do that. So we had to compromise. We had to understand this differently now, because we were far deep into decolonizing ourselves to start understanding, okay, what now? We have to recolonize ourselves in order to write this project down. So that was a process. And we started also understanding that the decoloniality is also an intentional move. So we had to now write what is our epistemology, what is our ontology, and how we ended up discussing them. So there is not a statement, there's not a clear statement where we say, okay, this is our epistemology, this is our ontology. We just put them into a dialogue to understand that there is a subjective decision for us, like coming from us, where we choose this is this and this is that. So we understood. We ended up defining it in a way as an onto-epistemic ethical attitude, basically. And we needed some sort of other concept in order to have analytical explanatory power, in order to live up to the conventions. And here's where there is a flaw on this approach, or there is a flaw in institutions like Roskilde that are not letting this to be part. So there's a limitation, we can call it. There's some sort of boundary. So we found a way around it with hybridity. We found this space in between, and the recategorization of categories at each encounter was this space in between a thing in all senses, and we ended up with a report and a discussion and all the things perfectly. But as we didn't feel right about that, we sent our analysis to these guys, and they had to approve it for us to put it in the report. Otherwise, we wouldn't hand out paper. That was our decision, because we had to compromise, but we wouldn't do it just in the back of these people. That would be, dominant enough. The same with the authors. When we were introducing the authors, we were contextualizing them. We asked them to write their own presentations, and lucky enough, some of them answered, and we had on our paper the way that we present, we contextualize the theoretical framework is through authors who are persons in a position or positioned, and with their consent. Basically, we did our best to do the least form for intervention, and we understood that it wasn't always an intervention when we thought it was, but an encounter. Yeah, I hope you can discuss that, and I hope it was useful. I'm happy to discuss this anytime. I'm always around. You just write to me. Thank you, Stephen. Where are you? And thank you, Gif.